Pranams and good afternoon. This is Professor Venkata Rao from the Bar Council of India Studios welcoming you to the webinar series being organized by the Bar Council of India. Let me first express my grateful thanks to Bar Council of India for conferring on me the honor of taking part in this webinar series and congratulate them for taking such a laudable initiative for the cause of legal education. This afternoon, I will be interacting with you on a topic of seminal importance, the importance of ethics in life and legal profession. And three words of profound significance: life, legal profession, and ethics. I will first start with the nobility of the legal profession and then again come back to legal profession sometime later. Three professions traditionally have been known to be noble professions. And those are the professions of a doctor, a medical profession, lawyer, legal profession, and the profession of a religious preacher or the clergyman. In fact, one would be surprised to know that originally teaching profession was not included in the noble professions. At latter point of time, it got included. But as to why these three professions are called noble professions is, remember, a person goes to a doctor when there is a suffering in the body. As long as he has 98.4 degrees temperature, he thinks that he's on the top of the world. But the moment this little finger gives or starts giving trouble, he goes to a doctor. So there is a suffering in the body, and the doctor should not take undue advantage of the suffering in the body of the victim. And therefore, in the discharge of his professional responsibilities, the doctor is supposed to bring to the fore extra noble qualities. And hence it is called noble profession. Who will go to a lawyer? My professor used to tell me that there are three places in the world where nobody would like to ever go, but everyone would be constrained to go at some point or other. And those three places are, he used to say with a wistful smile, a graveyard. Who will like to go to a graveyard? Then hospital. Who would like to go to a hospital? At least for hospitality, one needs to go. And the third one, he used to club three places: a police station, a lawyer's office, and a courtroom. Okay, but you will be constrained to visit these at some stage or other. So when there is a misfortune or a calamity that has happened to you, you go to a lawyer's office. And the lawyer, like the doctor, in the case of suffering, is not supposed to take undue advantage. And he is required to bring to the fore the extra noble qualities. That's the reason why the relationship between the doctor and the patient and the lawyer and the client is also called the fiduciary relationship, where one is in an advantageous position and the other is in a relatively disadvantageous position. And the third noble profession was the profession of a clergyman, a religious preacher. When you have suffering in the body, you go to a doctor. When you have suffering in the mind, you go to a preacher, you go to a clergyman who will provide you the spiritual solace. And he is also not supposed to take undue advantage. And he is required to bring to the fore noble qualities. And therefore, these three professions are called noble professions. Now, that's about the nobility of the legal profession. We'll come to the constitutionally ordained legal profession once again at a later stage. But then moving over to the second part, life, I will come down immediately to 21st century and tell you as to how the Microsoft CEO, Nadella, youngsters will be delighted to know about him. He is looking at life as an acronym, LIFE. He used to say life means learn innovation forever. And Satya Nadella says innovation means empathy in action. You have that heart to throb. Okay, you have that empathy. That means while you should have passion for what you do, you should have compassion for whom you do. That's what you mean by life. And he used to recall that wonderful statement, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. So by what we give, we make a life. Perhaps that was the reason why the English poet T.S. Eliot said, "Where is the life we have lost in living? Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? And where is the knowledge we have lost in information?" Therefore, to understand life in its perspective, remember, you need to be trained. And that's the reason why thinkers have defined education beautifully as education is not information, but formation. So, formation of what? Formation of a complete human being. Swami Vivekananda was once asked the question, "Swamiji, people say you interact with God or goddess daily. Can you tell us how God or goddess looks like?" Vivekananda immediately said, "There is nothing called God or goddess. But perfect human being is God, and imperfect God is human being. And education is that removes those imperfections. And education is the manifestation of perfection in human beings." And then beautifully he came with his master stroke. We are all human beings, but how many of us are being human? That which bridges the distance between a human being and being human is education, he said. In fact, young friends, let me share with you, one of the former Chief Justices of the United States of America, the United States Supreme Court, when he was asked a question, "Sir, whom would you like to appoint as judges?" You know, the cryptic answer given by him, "Well, I would like to appoint a good human being who also knows a bit of law." He did not say, "I will take an expert in law." He said, "I would like to appoint a good human being who also knows a bit of law." And he said, goodness is about character. Goodness is about integrity. Goodness is about kindness. Goodness is about generosity. Goodness is about moral courage. And then beautifully summed up saying that more than anything else, goodness is about how you treat the other people. How you treat the other people. You are taught in your classrooms, justice is an other regarding virtue. How you treat others. Therefore, a good human being who also knows a law. Therefore, that is what is required, empathy. And that's what Mother Teresa said in one context when she said, "How can you love God whom you cannot see when you cannot love human beings whom you see?" So this is what you mean by life. And then the third one, coming back to our profession once again before I move to ethics. Legal profession is one profession which finds a place in the Constitution of India. Perhaps that's the only profession that finds a place in the Constitution of India. Look at 395 articles and 12 schedules. You don't find mention about any other profession. And therefore, legal profession, in my opinion, is not only divinely ordained, but constitutionally ordained. And you look at the constitutional aspirations mentioned in the preamble: justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of expression, faith, belief, thought, and worship, equality of status and opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring dignity of the individual. So, legal profession is a constitutionally ordained profession. And we should also remember, just 1 month ago, 15th August 2021, we observed the 75th anniversary of our independence. And the front arm of our freedom movement was legal profession. Legal profession provided the front arm of the freedom movement. And majority of the members of the Constituent Assembly were from legal profession. And maybe that's the reason why they have given us a constitution which has grown from strength to strength. One thing I can share with you, number of countries became independent along with us. Number of constitutions were drafted, but they were thrown overboard. But our constitution had grown from strength to such an extent that when South Africa was liberated from apartheid, Nelson Mandela said, one of the best constitutions in India, in the world, is the Indian constitution. And he took help from not only the Constitution of India, but also experts from India in drafting the constitution for South Africa. Therefore, that is the beauty of legal profession. So when you are in that constitutionally ordained legal profession, what are your responsibilities? And in this context, let me speak to you what Justice Krishna Iyer told in one context, speaking about the nobility and greatness of legal profession. He said man is essentially a peace-loving animal, and therefore he had devised a mechanism to settle disputes peacefully in the administration of justice. Okay? And then he said, when peaceful settlement of disputes becomes impossible, violent settlement will become inevitable. That means, through your actions, if you make peaceful settlement of disputes impossible, you will make violent settlement inevitable. And therefore, there is an extra onerous responsibility on the shoulders of the black coat advocates, he said, to not only fulfill the constitutional goals, but to restore the levels of the confidence of the people in the institutions. He said today there is a crisis of confidence. And the crisis of confidence is assuming such proportions that sometimes inadvertently and unwittingly people would be forced to take recourse to extra legal and extra constitutional measures. And then he said, please remember, any system can withstand only marginal deviancy, but not total deviancy. And therefore, if you want the restoration of faith of people in the systems, a lot depends on the dramatist persona. And therefore, you need to maintain the highest ethical standards. I still remember the words of Justice Krishna Iyer, who said, advocates are of angelic proportions, and if angels fall, it makes news. Therefore, take upon yourselves to take a pledge today that you will promote the highest ethical standards. And then, let me also speak to you about what do you mean by a professional? And who are professionals? I will take you to Subrata Bakchi's book, The Professional, that was published in 2009, where he comes with a beautiful definition of a professional. He says most of us commit the fundamental mistake of calling doctors, engineers, lawyers, chartered accountants, among others, as professionals. And even our parents, with a typical middle-class mentality, celebrate when their children get seats in these professional courses in premier institutions, saying that they got admitted into a professional course. So Subrata Bakchi says, doctors, lawyers, engineers, they are not professionals. They are only professionally qualified people. And a professionally qualified person, to become a professional, requires certain basic qualities, he said. And I quote him, without basic honesty and fundamental ethics, nobody, however brilliant, can be called a professional. Without basic honesty and fundamental ethics, nobody, however brilliant, can be called a professional. So what is required is basic honesty. Professionalism, at the end of the day, is about a legacy, building a legacy, an inheritance. And a person should be remembered for the right reasons by the posterity. And he should leave his footprints on the sands of time in such a way that he is remembered. That will happen only when he adds integrity to whatever he does. What a wonderful expression. Then he adds integrity to whatever he does. And then he quotes Mahatma Gandhi and says, integrity is to maintain the coherence between and among three things. Among what you think, what you say, and what you do. So when you maintain that coherence among what you think, what you say, and what you do, it is integrity. And then he says, integrity is doing the right thing when nobody is watching. When somebody is watching, if you maintain integrity, it means you are afraid of him. When nobody is watching, when you are all alone, you have to act your conscience. If you maintain integrity, it is. And he recalls the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who said, please always remember in life, values are more important than valuables. And timeless values transcend temporary valuations. What a poetic expression. Timeless values transcend temporary valuations. And values being more important than valuables. And then he says, in life you will be always having a temptation of choosing between two. Choosing between the convenient thing and choosing between the right thing. And choosing a convenient thing over the right thing is always easy. But what separates the extraordinary persons from ordinary persons is choosing a right thing over a convenient thing. That is what you mean when you read that fundamental duty in the Constitution of India, duty to strive towards excellence. The 10th duty now, of course, 51AG says, to strive towards excellence in both individual and collective spheres of activity, so that nation constantly rises to higher levels of achievement is your fundamental duty. But what do you mean by striving for excellence? Is it excellence in the product? Recently, you had Olympics, you had Paralympics, and if I say, winning an Olympic gold medal by doping, is it excellence? No. Winning a university gold medal by plagiarizing, is it excellence? No. It is not only excellence in the product, but excellence in human being. Because please always remember, academic excellence without human excellence is disastrous. But that's what Portia said in The Merchant of Venice. When he said, we all have functioning brains, otherwise we would not have reached this level. But the whole question is, do we have functioning hearts? When brain continues to function, but heart stops to function, justice is the casualty, he says. Therefore, it is not only well-filled mind, but well-formed mind which is important. That is what Subrata Bakshi says in The Professional. And he then asked the question, in the city of Bengaluru, who is the greatest professional? A wonderful study done by him. And when he wrote the book, there were examples of Narayana Murthy of Infosys, Asif Premji of Wipro, Dr. Devi Shetty, Nandan Nilekar, Chris Gopalakrishnan, and many other eminent persons from Bangalore. And Subrata Bakshi asked that book the question, who is the greatest professional among them all? And you know, if you go through the book, you will be surprised to find that he says, in my opinion, none of them is a professional. At best, you may call them philanthropic capitalists, he says. But then, does it mean that there are no professionals in Bangalore? There are many, he says. There are who work silently. And my vote for the best professional goes to an auto driver, he says. I will share that with you. As to why Subrata Bakshi calls an auto driver the best professional. Now, that auto driver was earning his livelihood by plying his auto commercially for the last 20 years, from morning 6 o'clock till 12:30 in the afternoon, to eke out a living. And at 12:30, he used to take tiffin or working lunch from the tiffin box given to him by his spouse. And after 12:30, what happens is extraordinary. After 12:30, he used to take his auto to mortuaries in government hospitals. Mortuary is a place where dead bodies are kept. And he used to find poor people waiting in the queue to take the dead bodies of their dear departed ones home in a government vehicle. But there was inelasticity of demand. The vehicles were few, the dead bodies were many. People were required to wait in the queue for days. Then this auto driver thought, I must extend my helping hand. And you know what he had been doing? Since the last 20 years, Subhata Bakshi says, this auto driver has made it a mission to carry 2 dead bodies free of cost daily to their respective places where they near and dear wanted the dead bodies to be taken. And that he had been doing without the break of Sundays and holidays. And Subhata Bakshi says, this professional auto driver believed that there is no Sunday for sun because the sun rises even on Sundays. And all holidays for holy days, after all the spelling remains the same. And that is what you mean by a professional. When you speak about pro bono lawyering, think about this professional. When a teacher teaches in the classroom in the law, remember, let him not teach ethics only in the professional ethics subject. Every subject be taught from ethics perspective. Let every subject be taught from perspective of justice, equity, and good conscience. Now, prescribed syllabus is in professional ethics, but nothing prevents us from traveling beyond that. That is what Subhata Bakshi says the professional is. And I was bringing a metaphor of Olympics and Paralympics to tell you what honesty is. Let me also recall a very important episode that has happened in 2012, where a race took place in which a Kenyan participated and a Spanish athlete also participated. These two were the leading athletes. The name of the Spanish athlete was Ivan Fernandez. The name of the Kenyan runner was Abel Mutai. And Abel Mutai was superior. He was winning the race, but he did not know the technical rule that he must touch the tape at the end of the race. Therefore, he stopped running. He was followed by Spanish runner Ivan Fernandez. He could have overtaken him, but Spanish runner started shouting, both in English and Spanish, asking the Kenyan runner to run and touch the tape. Unfortunately, he did not understand either Spanish or English language. But then the Spanish runner came from behind, pushed the Kenyan so that he will touch the tape and he will become the winner. And Kenyan became the winner. The media people asked the Spanish people a question. See, you could have won the race easily. Kenyan stopped running, but why did you not do it? The reply given by him, I quote, but what would be the merit of my victory? What would be the honor of my medal? And what would my mother think of me? Parental control. Remember, which reminds us, where law suffers from a limitation, law cannot regulate the greed of human beings. Nor law can instill character in human beings. It is parental control at home. It is value judgment. It is attitude to values, ethical considerations, readings from religious books that will help you to shape your opinions. And he said, what would my mother think of me? And in this episode, one of the biggest life lessons have been taught to us, that no victory is more valuable than being honest. We are all responsible officers of the court. We must try to help the court to find out the truth. Truth lies in helping honestly. This must be remembered. And therefore, this is about a professional and the need to maintain ethical standards. And then I'll tell you the meaning of ethics. Ethics is showing a reverence for life. And 3 experiences of mine during my 42 years of teaching first in Andhra University and then in other institutions, I will share with you as to how it has shaped my approach towards value judgment and ethics. The first one is our interaction with the former Chief Justice of India, Chief Justice Ranganatha Mishra, whom we invited when he was the Chief Justice of India to deliver a lecture on the topic, the importance of ethics in legal profession in Andhra University. Ranganatha Babu agreed, accepted the invitation, and we scheduled his lecture at about 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, because as you know, most of the judges of Supreme Court would be available only on Sundays to us. And then on Sunday morning, we got a message from him after he landed in Visakhapatnam, requesting us to reschedule the lecture to 11:30. See, Chief Justice of India can command us, but he requested. And along with that, he also was so humble that he requested us to arrange a TV for him so that he would watch the Ramayana serial that was being telecast. In those days, you know, people used to say that all Indians used to have the highest integration when a cricket test match was being played and when Ramayana serial was being telecast. So we said, my lord, we will be arranging the TV for you. It would be our pleasure. We have arranged it. His lordship came to the campus, went where the TV was arranged, and watching the Ramayana episode, came to the gallery to deliver the lecture. Look how modest he was. In fact, M.C. Chagla in one of his books says, display of modesty and the absence of arrogance is what you mean by accountability. Display of modesty and absence of arrogance is what you mean by accountability. And with all humility, Justice Ranganatha Babu said, my grateful thanks to you for having arranged a TV for me to watch Ramayana episode, and for grateful thanks to you for having rescheduled my lecture. But my apologies to you also for me preventing you from watching today's episode because you were busy making arrangements for my lecture here. Therefore, to atone for what I have done, I will not speak on the topic first, but I will speak on what has happened in TV serial today. We were surprised. But at the end of the lecture, he beautifully juxtaposed the incident that had happened on the TV episode that day to ethics. Actually, what happened that day was Sita Mata would be abducted. And Ranganatha Mishra started saying, Tulsidas says Sita was abducted because she was tempted by golden deer. And where there would be temptation, Lord Rama will not be there. Of course, she was abducted for a bigger cause of restoring justice. And therefore, when Sita was abducted, Ram returns and finds Sita nowhere, starts shouting, Sita, Sita. But then he finds an ornament on the floor. Ram was in a disturbed state of mind. I am recalling everything that Ranganatha Mishra shared with us. Because he was in a disturbed state of mind, he calls Lakshman, an extraordinary character in Ramayana. Lakshman, his mother Sumitra, and his consort Urmila are 3 epitomes of sacrifice in Ramayana. And calls Lakshman, my dear younger brother, was it the ornament that your sister-in-law used to wear? Lakshman, without lifting his head, looks at it and says, esteemed elder brother, I do not know. And that was one occasion when Rama loses his patience and starts shouting at Lakshman, oh Lakshman, you have been virtually cohabiting with us. In fact, Sita Mata's abduction took place in the last part of their exile. And now today you say that you do not know. I have understood your real intentions. You were separated from your wife long ago. And maybe today you are happy that I am also separated from my wife. Lakshman did not understand what had happened to this divine incarnation called Rama. But then, even then, he doesn't raise his voice and he says, my dear elder brother, Sita Mata was my sister-in-law, and my elder sister-in-law is like my mother. That's what my culture taught. And here, Ranganatha Mishra beautifully explained to us the difference between culture and civilization. And he said, civilization is what we do, but culture is what we are. All civilized persons need not be cultured persons. And when you try to understand ethics, you please also understand this, he said. And Lakshman said, my culture taught me, when a woman is like your mother, even if you happen to be her child, after some stage in your life, you are not supposed to look at the entire frame of her body. Therefore, I have never looked at the entire frame. I thought. Ram starts crying, hugs Lakshman. Suddenly, Ranganatha Mishra stopped there. And then said, ladies and gentlemen, education is that enables you to know where to look at, where not to look at, what to look at and what not to look at. If you have understood that, you have understood the meaning of ethics. I need not tell you about your duties to court, your duties to advocate, your duties to public, your duties to self, 10 commandments, are higher and higher on professional ethics, not at all, not necessary. If you know where to look at, if you know where not to look at, if you know what to look at, and if you know what not to look at, that is ethics. What a wonderful lesson that was taught by Ranganatha Mishra. The second experience I would share with you is the extraordinary divine-like experience we had when Mother Teresa came to deliver a lecture in Andhra University. I was hardly 30 years, 31 to be very precise, young or old as we may think it. And I was in the reception committee. I was waiting at the gate. Mother came in a white sari draped with a blue border, condescending. We bowed down and welcomed, Mother, please come. She touched my hand. Said, son, what are you? I still feel the divine touch. Mother, I'm a teacher. Said, what do you teach? I said, I teach law. She said, God bless you. Went a few steps forward again, came back. Said, son, what did you say you teach? Then I thought maybe she could not hear me properly. I said, Mother, I told you I teach law. Then immediately she said, also teach ethics. She said, also teach ethics. I said, Mother, blessed. But then came the most interesting question. She said, do you know the meaning of ethics? Believe me, at that point of time, I was teaching professional ethics to my students for 6 years. Already 6 batches I covered. And I was 30 years. At the age of 30, your ego will be like that of a midsummer sun at 12 noon. And immediately, I thought, what Mother is asking me, do you know the meaning of ethics? I was about to give her a reply. But then, what my biological mother, who gave birth to me, told me once, I remembered. My mother told me, biological mother, whenever an elderly person asks you, do you know something? Don't jump and say yes. Please please enlighten me with your wisdom. Because she said, elderly persons are depositories of distilled wisdom gained through experience. And my father always used to say, whenever he used to refer to experience, good judgment comes out of experience, but experience comes out of bad judgment. That means experience is the name you give to mistakes. Therefore, curbing my ego and following the command of my biological mother, I asked Mother Teresa, please enlighten me. And then she said, son, I will tell you the meaning of ethics in 4 words. I thought that she would be quoting from the Bible or the Nicomachean ethics as we ordinary mortals do. She didn't do that. She said, show concern for others. 4 words. SHOW, show, concern, CONCERN, for others, OTHERS. I noted it down. She delivered a masterly lecture in which she used that sentence. How can you love God whom you cannot see when you cannot love human beings whom you see? She went back, I went to my chamber and looked at the statement. What did Mother mean by this? Show concern for others. The first lesson I got was, she said, oh, young fellow, please remember, we are all human beings and we have a human frailty. What is that? We think that the world starts with us and ends with us. We think that the queue starts with us and ends with us. We think that you are the first in the queue, you are the last in the queue. We think that you are the first to be born and last to die. You forget that you are only a relay player in the relay race to hand over the baton to the posterity. And first thing you realize is when your ego balloon is pickled, when you realize that there is somebody else in the world, take cognizance of his presence. And when you realize that there is somebody else, you need to show concern. You have to give them space. You have to give them adequate space. And you have to give them just space. Perhaps giving adequate and just spaces is the other meaning of the word human rights. After all, human rights means right to be human. And therefore giving adequate and just spaces. That's what you mean by ethics. And this was the lesson taught to me by Mother when she said, show concern for others. And when we speak about providing 3 A's, access, availability, affordability, remember, when we speak about pro bono, this is the main thing, isn't it? That heartthrob you should have. And the third interesting experience I had was with His Holiness Dalai Lama, who again in Andhra University, in his lecture, made a reference to a very interesting aspect. He said, Almighty God has given us this body, but He has given bones in every part of the body, excepting 2. One is the tongue and the other is the heart. In the tongue, He has not given us the bone because He wants you to speak always in a soft manner. That's a part of ethics. He wants you to speak always in a soft manner. He did not give bone in the heart because He wants your heart to have empathy, to be compassionate, to walk that extra mile, to show reverence. Remember, because justice is another regarding virtue. And that's what He said, I mean by emotional hygiene, He said, which is more important. And these 3 incidents, Ranganatha Mishra saying that education is that enables you to know where to look at and where not to look at, what to look at and what not to look at. Mother Teresa saying, show concern for others. Dalai Lama saying that you must speak in a soft way. Have been nurturing and nourishing me ever since then. And in the legal profession, we should remember this because please remember, when you are entering the Supreme Court of India, at the entrance of the Supreme Court, you have an inscription which says, not Satyameva Jayate, but 4 legendary words uttered, in my opinion, by the first female judge in the history of India. And an extraordinary character from Mahabharata, Gandhari. It's not Kunti, it is not Draupadi who said that. Who uttered those 4 words, Yatho Dharmaha, tato jaya. And in what context? When Duryodhana came to his mother on the eve of the inevitable Kurukshetra battle, which was about to begin, and touches the feet of the mother and says, "Mother, you are a virtuous woman. Whatever you say, whatever you bless will come true. Please bless me that we will be victorious." Gandhari, please remember, was your mother. And in the earlier days, she wanted her son to be the emperor. And like any mother, she wanted her son to live forever. Therefore, he once calls Duryodhana to come naked to her, so that she will anoint him. But Lord Krishna plays the spoil sport and says, "Duryodhana, what is this? You are going naked." Something like puppy shame, which we call. And he covers some parts of the body which became Achilles' heel. That Gandhari, who wanted her son to live forever, when Duryodhana comes, she says, she doesn't bless that you will be victorious. She simply says, "Yatho dharmaha tato jaya." Now, if dharma is on your side, you will be victorious. If dharma is not on your side, you will not be victorious. And dharma is about one's responsibility to society at large. And this is one word which doesn't have an English equivalent. Gurcharan Das was telling me when he wrote that book, The Difficulty of Being Good, the subtitle of which was The Subtle Art of Dharma, that he has searched in all the libraries in the world, including the best libraries in the Indological schools in Germany. But ultimately, he found that the word dharma doesn't have an equivalent English word. It is not rightfulness. It is not truthfulness. It is not justice. He could find some semblance of meaning in one shloka. Dharayeti iti dharmaha. That means whatever you do, if it integrates, it is dharma. If it disintegrates, it is adharma. That means wherever you are in any institution, and today you are a lawyer discharging the constitutionally ordained responsibilities. And therefore, remember, you must do that dharma. Yatho dharmaha tato jayaha. And finally, I would like to share a small episode with you before I wind up my lecture, because reminding the younger generations of the famous song of Beatles, which says, "Don't let me down." Having been privileged to study law, having been privileged to get ourselves enrolled as advocates, we have a duty cast upon us. Why? Look at the face of the common man. And when I look at the face of the common man, I am reminded of a similar kind of exercise, a seminar that took place once. And the theme of the seminar was the contribution of different professions for the cause of mankind. And a doctor was invited, a lawyer was invited, an administrator was invited, a teacher was invited, a preacher was invited, and each one of them was asked to speak about the profession. The first came the doctor and said, "My profession is the greatest profession because I cure you of all the diseases." Everyone clapped. And then came the lawyer. "My profession is the greatest profession because I give you peace of mind. I help you to settle your disputes and problems peacefully. Therefore, my profession is the greatest profession." People clapped it. Then came the bureaucrat come administrator. "I keep the wheels moving. If I apply the brake and if I remove the lubricant, the whole thing will get paralyzed." There were claps. Then the clergyman came, religious preacher. He said, "On behalf of all of you, I pray I provide you the solace. You come on Sundays to me, okay? And you make confessions. Therefore, I pray on your behalf. Therefore, my profession is great. Then came the teacher, and he said, all these fellows forget that I have taught them the alphabets. Alexander perhaps has said, if mother has given you life, the art of living is given by teacher. Therefore, my profession is the greatest profession. All clapped. Then the seminar was about to close. One man from the Vice, please allow me to speak for 1 minute, he said. The chairman gave him permission. And he came to a dais and said, I'm grateful to all the professionals for their contribution. But I'm not a doctor. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a teacher. I'm only a common man. But remember, I pay for all of you, he said. If I don't pay, you are not here. So when you are discharging our professional responsibilities, remember, and our sole objective and endeavor should be to make surroundings around us a better place, more equitable, more safe, more secure, and by setting the highest standards of conduct. That is the honors responsibility we have. That's what I wanted to convey to all of you in my interaction with you on the importance of ethics, because please remember, we want our family members to be developed. We want society to be developed. We want our nation to be developed. But all these would develop only when we have people who are developed. And that primary lesson should be us. So that's the reason why I'm choosing the topic. And I have not spoken anything about, remember, the Advocates Act or duties, because these will be narrated to you. And I wanted to give you only the background and the importance of divinely ordained and constitutionally prescribed responsibilities on us. Thank you very much for giving me a patient hearing. Thank you very much. Yeah, I have one question. What is the modern approach to restore confidence within the legal system in India in the current times? Well, that's true. What Professor Bakshi calls as crisis in the Indian legal system. But I would say, take the example of Mahatma Gandhi, okay, who in one context said, all of us have the dirty habit of complaining that the world is a dirty place to live in without we cleaning our own houses. If each person cleans his own house, the whole world will be clean in no time. The problem with us is we don't clean our house, we expect the world to be clean. And remember, the legal system also, the values of abiding by law, okay, of showing concern to others, in my opinion, must begin at home. And please remember, law is not even the primary agent of social control. I always tell my students in the classroom that today you have dowry prohibition law, tomorrow you have anti-corruption, perhaps Prevention of Corruption Act law, then Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act. Each law is like a zero. 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 is equal to 0 only. But the value of 1 0 gets enhanced if you put an integer before 1 0. 1 0 becomes 10, 2 zeros become 100, 3 0. But that integer is conspicuous by its absence. And therefore, the rot must be stemmed by the value orientation beginning at home. Then the world would be a wonderful place to live in. The second one is how to be mindful in keeping a heart and mind balance while exercising one's profession, along with keeping both in check so that one does not supersede other in the journey of becoming a professional. Absolutely right. Now, remember, I do not know how many of you have read Robin Sharma's The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, where the central character is Julian. Okay. And while arguing in the court, he collapses, but he recovers. Then he asks a question for himself. Why did God make me live again and not die? Because perhaps God wants to make me realize that all these days I have mastered law, but I have missed my life. Now the imbalance between heart and mind takes place only when you try to master law and miss your life. Remember, law is a part of life. Justice Oliver Holmes said, the life of law is not logic, but experience. Therefore, keeping the heart in the right place, remember, that is what you require, what you mean by your attitude to values, value judgments, and again to reiterate what I responded my answer to question number 1, that begins at parental control at home. Thank you very much. Right. Yeah. And please do remember, knowledge will only give you power, but character will give you respect. And therefore, a strong development and striking display of mental and moral faculties is what is required. A strong development and striking display of mental and moral faculties. That is what you mean by education. That's the reason why one thinker said, education is what remains in your mind after you forget everything taught in the institution. What remains in your mind after you forget everything. So that is how you can maintain a wonderful balance between the mind and the heart. In fact, the fundamental lessons in yoga tell only this. Okay? Thank you very much.